some ways, maybe it's actually an amazing journey of discovery. In less than 200 years, went through an incredible revolution of creating opportunities, and also went through an incredible process of learning about, hey, we do live in a system. You know, it's a physical system, a biological system, as much as it's a social and economic system. Now, if you take that as a sort of departure point, then understanding also how our economy works, because let us be honest, we transact through the lens of economics in our society, and we even bring it down further to, you know, units. I mean, whether it is a unit in the Schumacher sense, or whether it is the US dollar, or one that would be the renminbi, or you know, the Saudi Arabian, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. We need currencies of transaction. And I, for a long time, and I think Dan has said this also, and I'm an economist by training who walked away from economics and has returned to it, because I realized that actually it's not economics that's the problem, it's the ideology behind what makes economics into a tool for this way or that. If you take this notion that people have to interact with each other and they need a means of transaction, then, you know, whether you like it or not, this has evolved over, you know, thousands of years. Whether it was bartering, it was a cow horn, or today it is a dollar, it doesn't really matter. We do measure and have to reduce value to something that, if I give it to you, you can go next door and do something with that. So let's not fight that principle and argue that we step outside the notion of a transactional society. I mean, we do. So economics actually is, you know, just a way of trying to understand how things flow and how they happen. What became, and you referred to it earlier on, I think in a sense an intellectual prison during the last 20 or 30 years was what we in the international system call the Washington Consensus, which was the notion of the conspiracy that between the US government, the IMF, and the World Bank, there was a model of global economic, you know, evolution almost being imposed on the rest of the world. In the US you would have called it, you know, Adam Smith Reborn, or I don't know, whatever. Markets were the equivalent of the laws of physics, right? Mm-hmm. That there is a inherent dynamic in how markets function that dictates to society how it has to respond to it. And the opposite is actually true. There are, throughout human history, social choices that are made that dictate how markets function, right? We set boundaries, we prescribe how they may or may not interact. It may sometimes be simply, we as a community will not trade with that community in the other valley because we have a problem with them over, I don't know, pastures. You know, you can go right down to the community level, or you can go right up to what we're seeing now as, we're not going to buy tires from China because they don't do them the way we would like them to do them, or we think that it's fair for them to produce them. Or we're going to put border adjustment tariffs in place because if we do something about global warming and they don't do something, we're going to punish them. You know, I mean, this is basically, you know, from the highest level of a global market right down to a community trading in cattle, or in Kenya right now, pastoralists coming into conflict with communities that are sedentary farmers. So markets are not God-given or somehow, you know, the laws of physics, which was paralyzing to any kind of social agenda or equity agenda or sustainability agenda, because you somehow had to function within this notion that capital dictated to you what you could choose to do. And, you know, the consequence was ever larger capital agglomeration, you know, one company merger and acquisition with the next one. And